The greatest inventions are rarely born by accident. They emerge from relentless curiosity, countless failures, and places where imagination is allowed to run free. In the quiet countryside of New Jersey, surrounded by open fields and scattered farms, one such place would forever change human history. It wasn't a palace. It wasn't a university. It wasn't funded by kings or governments. It was a laboratory. And inside its walls, one man was determined to reinvent the future. His name was Thomas Alva Edison. The world would soon call him the Wizard of Menlo Park. In 1876, after years of success in telegraphy and stock market inventions, Edison invested his fortune into something no inventor had ever attempted. Rather than working alone in a small workshop, he envisioned an entire factory devoted to invention. A place where ideas could move from sketches to working machines without ever leaving the building. He chose a quiet area in Menlo Park, New Jersey. At first glance, it looked ordinary. But history was about to unfold behind its wooden walls. Menlo Park wasn't simply another laboratory. It became the world's first industrial research laboratory, a place where scientists, machinists, chemists, draftsmen, and engineers worked together under one roof. Today, nearly every modern research center follows this model. In 1876, it was revolutionary. Instead of waiting years between discoveries, Edison wanted inventions on demand. Edison understood something many inventors did not. Great ideas rarely belong to one person alone. He recruited brilliant machinists capable of building impossible machines. Expert chemists willing to test hundreds of strange materials. Engineers who could turn rough sketches into precise instruments. Among them were Charles Batchelor, John Crissey, Francis Upton, and many others whose contributions helped bring Edison's ambitious visions to life. Together, they transformed invention into teamwork. Day and night, the laboratory remained alive. Gas lamps illuminated crowded workbenches. Metal lathes echoed through wooden halls. Glass tubes cooled beside chemical flasks. Steam engines powered heavy machinery while telegraph wires buzzed overhead. Sleep became optional. Discovery became routine. Thomas Edison demanded extraordinary dedication, not only from his team but from himself. He often worked 18 hours a day. Sometimes longer. He would nap on laboratory tables, wake within minutes, and return immediately to his experiments. Meals were forgotten. Weekends disappeared. Time itself became secondary to invention. To Edison, every waking hour held the possibility of changing the world. Experiments rarely succeeded on the first attempt, or the 10th, or the 100th. Shelves filled with failed prototypes, broken glass, burned wires, ruined chemicals. Most inventors would have stopped. Edison simply made another attempt. Each failure was not defeat. It was information. Another step toward success. Years later, Edison would become famous for a philosophy born inside Menlo Park. He believed that genius required very little inspiration and an overwhelming amount of hard work. As he famously declared, "Genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration." Those words became more than a quote. They became the operating principle of the laboratory itself. News spread quickly. Reporters traveled to Menlo Park. Scientists arrived carrying notebooks. Business leaders hoped to witness the next great invention. Curious citizens gathered outside the laboratory, wondering what miracle might emerge next. Inside, Edison continued working as though no one was watching. Newspapers struggled to explain what they had seen. Machines that seemed impossible. Experiments unlike anything previously imagined. One publication gave Edison a title that would define the rest of his life. The Wizard of Menlo Park. It sounded mythical. Yet inside the laboratory, magic had nothing to do with it. Only relentless curiosity, discipline, and thousands of experiments. The laboratory was finally complete. The team was assembled. The machinery was running. Now, only one question remained. What invention would emerge first? The answer would astonish the entire world. A machine that could speak. Fade to black.
By the end of 1877, Menlo Park had become a place where impossible ideas were expected. Telegraphs carried messages across continents. Machines powered factories. Photography preserved moments in time. But one mystery remained untouched. The human voice. A spoken word lived only for an instant. The moment it left a person's lips, it vanished forever. No machine had ever captured it. No invention had ever played it back. Most scientists believed such a feat belonged to fantasy. Thomas Edison believed otherwise. While improving telegraph transmitters and experimenting with telephone technology, Edison began asking a radical question. If a needle could record tiny electrical signals, could it also record the vibrations of sound itself? The concept was astonishingly simple. Speak into a diaphragm. Allow the vibrations to move a stylus. Etch those vibrations onto a rotating cylinder. Then reverse the process. And perhaps the machine would speak. To many, it sounded absurd. To Edison, it sounded inevitable. Inside Menlo Park, sketches quickly became metal. Machinists shaped brass cylinders with painstaking precision. Thin sheets of tinfoil were wrapped around rotating drums. Springs, gears, and cranks were assembled by hand. Every tiny imperfection mattered. The slightest flaw could silence the machine forever. Day after day, the laboratory echoed with failed attempts. Yet no one stopped. Because everyone sensed they were chasing history. Then came one unforgettable evening. Edison leaned toward the strange new machine. The laboratory fell silent. His assistants watched without speaking. He slowly turned the crank and recited a familiar nursery rhyme. Mary had a little lamb, its fleece was white as snow. The stylus carved tiny grooves into the tinfoil. When he reached the end, he reset the cylinder, turned the crank once more, and waited. From the metal horn came a faint, crackling, mechanical voice. Mary had a little lamb. For a brief moment, the laboratory stood frozen. The machine had repeated words spoken only seconds before. It wasn't magic. It wasn't an illusion. For the first time in human history, a machine had captured the human voice and spoken it back. History had changed forever. The news spread with astonishing speed. Newspapers struggled to describe the invention. Some called it a miracle. Others insisted it must be a trick. Crowds gathered at Menlo Park hoping to witness the talking machine. Visitors laughed, cheered. Some even stepped backward in fear. Never before had technology blurred the line between life and machine so completely. Soon, invitations arrived from across America and Europe. Scientists wanted explanations. Business leaders wanted demonstrations. Kings and presidents wanted introductions. The young inventor who had once sold newspapers aboard trains had become one of the most famous people on Earth. The newspapers embraced the nickname first whispered months earlier. The Wizard of Menlo Park. Now, the title seemed deserved. To many observers, the phonograph was simply entertainment. A machine that could sing or tell stories. Edison imagined something far greater. He believed voices could be preserved for future generations. Business letters could be dictated. Books could speak to the blind. Languages could be taught. Music could be enjoyed long after musicians had left the stage. The possibilities seemed endless. Many of those predictions would eventually become reality. The phonograph did more than record sound. It transformed humanity's relationship with memory. For thousands of years, voices disappeared the instant they were spoken. Now, a laugh, a song, a final goodbye, could survive long after the speaker was gone. Sound itself had become something that could be preserved. While the world celebrated the talking machine, Thomas Edison had already turned his attention elsewhere. The phonograph had proven that impossible ideas could become reality. Now he wanted something even more ambitious. Not merely to record sound, but to conquer the darkness itself. Inside Menlo Park, a new experiment had already begun. One that would illuminate the modern world. Fade to black. The glowing bulb inside Menlo Park had proven that electric light was possible. But Thomas Edison knew one lamp could never change the world. A practical invention meant nothing unless millions of people could use it. The greatest challenge still lay ahead. How do you deliver electricity safely, reliably, to an entire city? No one had ever built such a system. Edison wasn't just inventing a light bulb anymore. He was inventing the modern electric grid. Most people remember Edison for the bulb. History often forgets everything surrounding it. Every component had to be designed from scratch. Power generators, underground cables, electrical meters, safety fuses, switches, distribution panels. Even the screw socket that still holds many light bulbs today traces its origins to Edison's system. Each invention depended upon the others. Without the network, the bulb was only a scientific curiosity. Across New Jersey and New York, workshops worked around the clock. Massive dynamos rolled off assembly lines. Copper cables stretched for miles. Glassworkers produced thousands of identical bulbs. Electricians developed entirely new skills. For the first time in history, an industry was forming around electricity itself. The future was becoming a business. The greatest test would take place in the heart of New York City. Instead of hanging dangerous wires overhead, much of Edison's system was installed beneath the crowded streets. Workers dug deep trenches through busy roads. Heavy copper conductors disappeared underground. Steam-powered machinery echoed between towering buildings. Few people understood what was being built beneath their feet. Yet those hidden cables would soon transform the city forever. On September 4, 1882, years of planning reached their defining moment. At Pearl Street in Lower Manhattan, Edison switched on one of the world's first central power stations. 6 enormous steam-powered dynamos roared to life. Electric current surged through underground cables. The first customers waited nervously. Moments later, hundreds of lamps illuminated homes, businesses, banks, and newspaper offices. Without smoke, without flames, without gas, the age of electric power had truly begun. People stepped onto the streets in disbelief. Store windows glowed brighter than ever before. Hotels welcomed guests beneath clean white light. Factories extended their working hours. Restaurants remained open long after sunset. The familiar smell of burning gas slowly began to disappear. Night itself seemed different. Safer. Brighter. More alive. For countless families, this was the first glimpse of the 20th century. People stepped onto the streets in disbelief. Store windows glowed brighter than ever before. Hotels welcomed guests beneath clean white light. Factories extended their working hours. Restaurants remained open long after sunset. The familiar smell of burning gas slowly began to disappear. Night itself seemed different. Safer. Brighter. More alive. For countless families, this was the first glimpse of the 20th century. Thomas Edison had accomplished something few inventors ever achieve. He had not simply created a remarkable machine. He had transformed the infrastructure of civilization. Homes became safer. Factories became more productive. Cities expanded after sunset. Modern life itself began to change. Yet as Edison celebrated his greatest commercial triumph, a new battle was already beginning. Not over whether electricity would power the future, but over how it should be delivered. A brilliant young engineer named Nikola Tesla was about to challenge everything Edison believed. Fade to black. By the early 1880s, Thomas Edison had become the world's most celebrated inventor. His electric lighting systems were spreading across American cities. The future appeared firmly in his hands. Then, in 1884, a young Serbian engineer arrived in New York Harbor with little more than a suitcase, remarkable talent, and an ambitious dream. His name was Nikola Tesla. Tesla admired Edison. He believed working beside the famous inventor would allow him to transform the future of electricity. Neither man could have imagined they were about to become central figures in one of history's greatest technological rivalries. At first, Tesla joined one of Edison's companies as an engineer. He quickly impressed his colleagues with his mathematical brilliance and innovative ideas. Yet the two men approached invention in very different ways. Edison relied on relentless experimentation. Test. Fail. Improve. Repeat. Tesla preferred deep theoretical understanding. He often visualized complete machines in his mind before building them. Neither approach was inherently superior. But together, they created constant tension. The growing electrical industry depended on direct current, or DC. In a DC system, electricity flowed continuously in a single direction. It worked well over short distances. But as cities expanded, power weakened the farther it traveled. Supplying large regions required many generating stations placed close together. Edison believed these challenges could be solved through better engineering. He remained committed to improving DC. Tesla saw a different future. He believed alternating current, or AC, offered a more practical solution. Unlike DC, AC repeatedly reversed direction many times each second. Using transformers, its voltage could be increased for long-distance transmission, then reduced again before entering homes and businesses. This made electricity far more efficient across great distances. It was a fundamentally different vision of the electrical world. Tesla eventually left Edison's company. Stories about exactly why, including later accounts of promised bonuses, remain debated by historians. What is clear is that the two men had different technical priorities and different business visions. For a time, Tesla struggled to find financial support. Then he met an industrialist who recognized the potential of alternating current. George Westinghouse. Westinghouse purchased rights to Tesla's AC patents and began building a rival electrical empire. The competition had begun. The battle that followed became known as the War of Currents. It was more than a scientific disagreement. It was a struggle between competing technologies, competing companies, and competing visions for the future. Edison publicly argued that high-voltage AC systems posed significant safety risks. Some demonstrations highlighted the dangers of electricity by showing the effects of powerful AC currents on animals. These events remain among the most controversial episodes associated with the era. Westinghouse responded that, when properly engineered and operated, AC could deliver electricity both safely and efficiently over long distances. Public opinion became another battlefield. Newspapers eagerly covered every development. As cities chose between electrical systems, engineers, investors, and politicians watched closely. The question was no longer whether electricity would power the modern world. It already had. The question now was, which system would carry that power? Across America, new power stations rose. Transmission lines stretched farther than ever before. Each successful installation strengthened one side or the other. The defining moment came at one of nature's greatest wonders, Niagara Falls. Its immense power had long inspired engineers. Could its rushing water generate electricity for distant cities? After years of debate, the project adopted an alternating current system using technology associated with Tesla's patents and Westinghouse equipment. When electricity generated at Niagara successfully reached communities many miles away, it demonstrated the practical advantages of long-distance AC transmission. It was a turning point, one that influenced electrical systems around the world. By the end of the 19th century, alternating current had become the dominant method for transmitting electricity across long distances. Its efficiency made large regional power networks possible. Direct current did not disappear. It continued to serve specialized applications and remains important even today in electronics, batteries, transportation systems, and modern high-voltage DC transmission. History was not about one technology defeating another. It was about choosing the right tool for different challenges. History often portrays Edison and Tesla as bitter enemies. The truth is more complex. They represented different philosophies of invention. Edison excelled at transforming ideas into practical industries. Tesla expanded the possibilities of electrical engineering through visionary designs. Both men changed civilization. Without Edison, the electrical industry might never have grown so rapidly. Without Tesla, the world's power grids might have evolved very differently. Their rivalry pushed innovation forward, and humanity benefited from both. As the war of currents faded into history, Thomas Edison was already pursuing another extraordinary frontier. He wanted to capture not just sound, but motion itself. Fade to black. By the late 1880s, Thomas Edison had already accomplished what many inventors could only dream of. The phonograph had given machines a voice. Electric light had transformed cities. His name was known across the world. For most people, that would have been enough. For Edison, it was only the beginning. His curiosity never rested. Even after changing the modern world, he continued asking the same simple question that had guided him since childhood. What can we invent next? Photography had frozen moments in time. Edison wanted something even more extraordinary. He wanted pictures that could move. Working alongside his talented assistant William Kennedy Laurie Dixon, Edison helped develop technologies that led to one of the world's first practical motion picture systems. The kinetograph camera recorded moving images. The kinetoscope allowed individuals to watch short films through a viewing window. For the first time, life itself appeared to move inside a machine. The age of cinema had quietly begun. To create these moving pictures, a new kind of studio was needed. In 1893, Edison built what is widely recognized as the first purpose-built film production studio. Known as the Black Maria, its black exterior absorbed heat. Its roof could open to follow the sun. The entire building rotated on a circular track to capture the best natural light. Actors, athletes, dancers, magicians, and everyday performers stepped before its camera. These brief films became the foundation of a global entertainment industry worth billions today. Edison never abandoned the phonograph. Year after year, he refined its design. Fragile tinfoil gave way to stronger recording materials. Sound quality improved. Playback became clearer. Recording became more practical. Homes around the world gradually filled with music, speeches, and storytelling. The dream Edison imagined in Menlo Park was becoming everyday reality. Not every invention succeeded. Edison invested heavily in iron ore mining, hoping to revolutionize steel production. Despite years of work and enormous expense, the project ultimately failed. He later turned his attention to cement manufacturing. Although some ideas found commercial success, others never achieved the impact he envisioned. Failure remained a constant companion. But Edison accepted it as part of invention itself. Every setback taught another lesson. As automobiles began replacing horse-drawn carriages, a new challenge emerged: portable electrical power. Edison devoted years to improving rechargeable storage batteries. His nickel-ion battery became known for its durability and long service life. Although it never dominated the automobile industry as he had hoped, it found valuable applications in mining equipment, railway signaling, and industrial machinery. Once again, his work reached far beyond a single invention. Over the course of his remarkable career, Thomas Edison accumulated 1,093 United States patents, along with many additional patents in other countries. The number itself became legendary. But the patents told only part of the story. More important was the method behind them. Research, experimentation, collaboration, persistence. The Invention Factory that began at Menlo Park had become a model for laboratories around the world. From electronics to medicine to space exploration, its influence continues today. By the early 20th century, Thomas Edison was no longer simply an inventor. He had become a symbol of innovation itself. Students studied his methods. Entrepreneurs admired his persistence. Engineers expanded upon his ideas. His inventions touched nearly every aspect of daily life: light, sound, motion, communication, industry. Yet the story of Thomas Edison was approaching its final chapter. The inventor who had illuminated the modern world was growing old. Fade to black. The laboratory was quieter now. The relentless pace that had once filled Menlo Park with the sound of hammers, gears, and experiments had begun to slow. Thomas Edison was growing older. His hearing, which had troubled him for much of his life, had deteriorated further. Yet his curiosity never faded. Visitors still came seeking advice. Young inventors hoped to shake the hand of the man whose ideas had illuminated cities and transformed industries. Even in his later years, Edison remained what he had always been: a man endlessly fascinated by possibility. By the late 1920s, the world around Edison had changed beyond recognition. Automobiles filled the streets. Motion pictures entertained millions. Recorded music echoed through homes. Factories ran through the night beneath electric light. Radio connected continents. Many of these revolutions had been influenced, directly or indirectly, by the work that began in Menlo Park. The future he had imagined had become everyday life. On October 18, 1931, Thomas Alva Edison died at his home in West Orange, New Jersey. He was 84 years old. News traveled around the globe within hours. Newspapers published special editions. Radio stations interrupted their programming. Governments, scientists, business leaders, and ordinary families paused to remember the inventor whose work had changed the modern age. An era had come to an end. In the days that followed, tributes arrived from across the world. Perhaps the most symbolic came through light itself. Across parts of the United States, many communities and businesses briefly dimmed or switched off electric lights in Edison's honor. For a moment, the darkness returned. Not as a reminder of what had been lost, but as a reminder of what had been gained. When the lights came back, they illuminated a world forever changed by his work. Thomas Edison is often remembered as the inventor of the light bulb. But his true legacy reaches far beyond any single invention. He helped pioneer industrial research laboratories. He advanced sound recording. He contributed to the birth of motion pictures. He built systems that allowed electricity to become part of everyday life. Perhaps most importantly, he demonstrated that innovation could be systematic. That invention was not only inspiration, but persistence, collaboration, and disciplined experimentation. Modern research centers, technology companies, and engineering teams continue to follow principles that first took shape in Menlo Park. Like many influential figures in history, Thomas Edison remains a subject of debate. Some criticize his business practices. Others question how credit was shared among collaborators. His rivalry with Nikola Tesla has often been simplified into myths that overlook the contributions of both men. History is rarely defined by heroes or villains alone. It is shaped by people. Brilliant. Ambitious. Imperfect. Working within the challenges of their time. Understanding Edison means appreciating both his remarkable achievements and the complexities that accompanied them. More than a century has passed since the first practical incandescent lamp glowed inside Menlo Park. Yet every illuminated street, every recorded song, every motion picture, every modern research laboratory, still carries echoes of that extraordinary journey. A curious boy who once filled a train baggage car with homemade experiments became one of the most influential inventors in human history. His greatest invention may not have been a machine at all. It was an idea that impossible problems can be solved through relentless curiosity and the courage to keep trying. The story of Thomas Edison is not simply the story of one man. It is the story of humanity's determination to push beyond the limits of what seems possible. Every generation inherits the discoveries of those who came before, then dares to dream even further. The lights that brighten our cities, the technologies that connect our world, the innovations shaping tomorrow, all stand upon foundations built by countless inventors whose curiosity changed history. Thomas Edison was one of them. And his light still shines. Fade to black. Text on screen. The future belongs to those who never stop asking what if. Then. Legendary inventors. The story continues.